Hey, hey. Hurricane Milton came through like Krampus last night, paying me and many other Floridians a visit. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit because pretty much every comment on every video I posted for the last 3 days is talking about how ridiculously stupid it is that I'm not evacuating Tampa. During every stream recently, it's like calling me the Milton maniac for refusing to leave against the orders of the state, this and that. And I want to clear up some confusion here. First of all, I appreciate that you care. That means a lot that you care and value my safety to try and let me know that I need to be evacuating and, heeding the warnings of the state and all of that. I am shocked anyone had this impression that I'm some kind of death-defying Florida man who was going to take Mother Nature head on, hunker down, grit my teeth, puff my chest, and challenge it to a fucking boxing match or something. Hit it with like Duke Nukem lines, I'm here to fuck Milton and my butt, and I'm all out of butt. I was never in a dangerous area that Milton was going to be devastating for. Not in an evacuation zone, not in a flood zone, nothing like that. There was never, no one in my neighborhood evacuated, none of my family, friends, or anyone evacuated because we were not in that path. But I understand, reading, all the headlines and all the posts on Twitter and all that, it would have you believe that Florida was about 2 hours away from being wiped off the face of the fucking globe. I get it. I totally understand it comes from a place of care. But you have to remember, I am the guy that clutches the railing on every staircase I go up and down just out of fear I might hit a little water, lose my balance, and slip like a cartoon character on a banana peel and die on the staircase. Me, who if a piece of chicken sits out for more than 5 minutes, I won't eat it because I'm afraid of a foodborne illness killing me. I am the last person that would go against an order to evacuate if my life was in danger. I am the last person that would be gambling with my safety on something like that. So I wasn't doing anything crazy by staying. You have to remember, I've been in Florida my whole life. Across the 30 years I've inhabited this corporeal dimension, I've gone through probably 30 plus hurricanes. I am more familiar with hurricanes than I am some of my cousins. So I know when to leave. I evacuated during Irma because I lived in downtown Tampa in my apartment at that time, which is a huge flood zone. That shit turns into Atlantis even during a light drizzle. So I evacuated during that, and even though a storm like this is exceptionally rare, a direct hit to Tampa hasn't been documented for 100 years or something, a full century, we're talking Yu-Gi-Oh! At this point, it's been 100 years since the Shadow Games. It was still something where I wasn't in the most devastating path of it. That's more of downtown Tampa, which I haven't lived in for 10 years now. There were much worse parts of Florida that were at risk for Milton, and I was not in them. I understand everyone's concern, and I appreciate it, but I just want to clear up the confusion here that I wasn't doing anything unhinged by staying. Now, I'm sure a lot of you saw that there was someone doing something pretty unhinged. Lieutenant Dan, he became an overnight Tampa celebrity. He also, for Hurricane Helene, did the same thing. Was just kind of floating out there in the bay on his little boat, saying that he was just going to ride it out. And he did. Lieutenant Dan survived. Tampa got very lucky. It doesn't seem like we got hit by the worst parts of the storm surge or anything. There wasn't a whole lot of flooding in the areas that typically flood during hurricanes. So overall, Tampa did get lucky. I haven't seen all of the damage to the rest of Florida yet. The biggest thing I've seen nearby is this.
Extreme damage. There was a report we saw online earlier of a fire, and we were waiting to confirm that, and now we just made it up to the 5th floor.
That's our baseball stadium for the Rays, Tropicana Field. It's often considered one of the worst facilities in all of major sports, so I'm not super surprised to see that the roof got eviscerated here during the storm. I'm actually more surprised that Tropicana Field is still standing after kids throw rocks at it all the time. It's just not a good facility at all. But this was the biggest, most visible piece of damage I've seen so far. Really, the worst part of Milton was the tornadoes that were spawning after it made landfall. I know quite a few people lost their lives from the tornadoes, as well as a lot of damage from places tornadoes came through. And that is horrible. I'm wishing everyone affected by the storm the best going forward with repairs and recovery and everything. I know there's tons and tons of Floridians without power, which happens for pretty much all hurricanes. That's just something you can't really avoid. All you can really hope for is that it gets fixed soon. Right now I have power because I'm on generator. I know a lot of people had the impression that I was going to be raw dogging this hurricane with nothing but a tent and a couple of sticks that I could whittle into spears or whatever. Not the case. I prepped for hurricanes. I stayed, so obviously I was going to prep for it. Boarding the windows, putting the hurricane shutters up, and I do have a generator. Growing up, I did not. My parents didn't for a very long time, and one of the big things with hurricanes is you're going to lose power, and it sometimes takes quite a few days to get it back. And that's kind of hard for a family. So when my parents were able to, they got a generator. So I do the same now. Another thing to keep in mind is evacuations aren't as easy as a lot of people like to pretend they are. When I evacuated for Irma, I almost didn't make it to Orlando in time, nearly getting caught in the fucking hurricane on the way there. It is a hard thing to do, and not everyone can just get up and leave. There are a lot of reasons why some families won't be able to do that. And I think an important thing to keep in mind is, in Florida, people know hurricanes exist. So it's not like the people who build houses and buildings are building these without the idea that a hurricane might come through at some point. It's not made out of Legos and Lincoln Logs or anything. When a house is built, or a business or whatever building is built, there is a code that is followed that has hurricane force winds in mind. Of course, nothing is ever 100% hurricane proof or anything. It's always going to vary. But the point is, it's not like Milton would come through and deatomize every house that it touched because they were built poorly without the notion that a hurricane could pop up at some point in the future. My parents just recently got their windows replaced a couple weeks ago because their windows were old and rotting, and the new windows that they had replaced them are graded to withstand up to 165 mile per hour hurricane force winds. And I think that for a lot of modern houses and modern buildings, like that level might even be standard to a certain extent. I don't know, but the point is, things built here are built with storms like this in mind. Maybe not this exact kind of storm because of how unbelievably fucking rare it is with the way that it came in, but hurricanes in general. Now, of course, the biggest problem is flooding. And in this case, Tampa got pretty lucky that the flooding wasn't nearly to the level they were expecting. There's nothing you can really do about flooding. You can hurricane-proof a house till the fucking cows come home out the wazoo, but it's not going to help with flooding. And those areas of Tampa that are very susceptible to flooding are the areas that were mainly under the big evacuation order with people needing to get out. Because you can't do anything about a huge storm surge flooding your house. You are in huge danger there. Keep in mind, Tampa's not just like one fucking slab where everyone lives. Tampa's pretty spread out, actually. So while downtown Tampa floods like a motherfucker, where I am in Tampa, not so much. Not really a flood threat at all, really, unless we got fucking 500 trillion gallons of water dumped on us. Or, it has to be something crazy for this part of Tampa to flood. So I just wanted to explain here that I wasn't putting myself in like the biggest risk by staying. I wasn't in the evacuation zones, and I wasn't in a place that had a lot of danger of, like trees flying around or anything like that. I and my family and friends were lucky enough to not be in one of the major affected areas that Milton was going through, so we decided it was probably alright to stay. Anyway, though, I'll go ahead and stop serving up this yappy meal. I'll stop blabbering on about it. Wishing my fellow Floridians the absolute best going forward. To anyone affected by the hurricane, I'm hoping power is restored quickly and effectively. Hopefully all the repairs are getting made quickly and effectively as well. And yeah, just stay strong, Florida. That's really about it. Just kind of wanted to explain that contrary to popular belief, I didn't do something crazy and wacky by deciding to stay and just kind of stream through a lot of it. So yep, that's really about it. See ya.